The deafening roar of helicopter blades cuts through the morning air as a massive aircraft descends toward a small, weathered house on Maple Street. Neighbors pour out of their homes, phones raised, recording the impossible scene unfolding before their eyes. But what happened next shocked everyone, and to understand this miraculous moment, we need to rewind 3 weeks earlier to meet the man whose simple act of kindness would change everything. Elijah Thompson sits at his kitchen table, surrounded by a mountain of overdue bills. The red stamps glare back at him like warning signs he can no longer ignore. 60 days past due, he reads aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. The electricity bill alone would take most of his paycheck, and his landlord has already left 2 voicemails about next month's rent. Through the cracked window of his small apartment, Elijah can see his pickup truck in the driveway, hood propped open like a patient waiting for surgery he can't afford. The mechanic quoted him $800 yesterday, money that might as well be $8,000 given his current situation. He pushes back from the table and rubs his temples, wondering how everything fell apart so quickly after losing his construction job 6 months ago. "Lord, I could use some help here," he mutters, grabbing his worn baseball cap and heading out for his morning walk through the neighborhood. It's become his daily ritual, a way to clear his head before another day of job hunting and bill dodging. As he turns onto Elmwood Avenue, something catches his eye. An elderly white woman with silver hair is struggling with an aluminum ladder that seems determined to defy her efforts. She's maybe 75, wearing a faded floral dress and tennis shoes that have seen better decades. The ladder wobbles dangerously as she attempts to position it against her house. "Ma'am, hold on there," Elijah calls out, jogging toward her. "Let me help you with that." The woman looks up, startled. Her pale blue eyes are sharp despite her age, and she studies Elijah with a mixture of wariness and desperation. "Oh, you don't need to trouble yourself, young man." "No trouble at all," Elijah says, steadying the ladder with both hands. "I'm Elijah Thompson. I live just over on Maple Street." "Edith Robinson," she replies, extending a weathered hand. "I've been trying to get up there to check my roof. Had quite a storm last week, and I think some shingles came loose." Elijah looks up at the modest 2-story house. Even from ground level, he can see the problem areas where shingles have shifted or gone missing entirely. Dark stains on the exterior walls suggest water damage is already beginning. "Mrs. Robinson, you shouldn't be climbing up there alone. That roof needs proper attention, and this ladder isn't nearly tall enough for the job." Little did Elijah know that this moment of concern would set in motion a chain of events that would captivate an entire community. "I called 3 different contractors," Mrs. Robinson says, her voice trembling slightly. 2 never called back, and the third wants $4,000. "I just don't have that kind of money." She looks down at her feet, embarrassed. "My Herbert always took care of these things. He's been gone 2 years now, and I'm still figuring out how to manage everything alone." Elijah's heart clenches. He recognizes the weight of overwhelming circumstances, the feeling of drowning in problems with no life preserver in sight. But something about this woman's dignity in the face of hardship strikes him deeply. "Ma'am, I worked construction for 15 years before." He trails off, not wanting to burden her with his own troubles. "I could take a look up there, assess what needs doing. No charge for looking." Mrs. Robinson's eyes brighten with hope. "Would you really? I've been losing sleep worrying about what'll happen when the next storm hits." Elijah borrows a proper extension ladder from her neighbor and climbs up to investigate. What he finds is worse than he expected. Several shingles are missing, others are cracked, and the flashing around the chimney has pulled away completely. It's not just a cosmetic issue anymore, it's a structural problem that will only get worse with time. "Mrs. Robinson," he calls down, "I can fix this, but it's going to need materials. Shingles, flashing, roofing cement, some plywood for the damaged sections underneath." "How much would materials cost?" she asks, though her tone suggests she already knows the answer will be beyond her reach. Elijah does quick calculations in his head. "Maybe $300-400 if we shop smart." The hope fades from her face. "I appreciate your kindness, but I just can't manage that right now." That evening, Elijah sits in his apartment staring at the small savings envelope he keeps hidden in his sock drawer. $327, his emergency fund, carefully accumulated over months of skipping meals and walking instead of driving. It's supposed to be for keeping the lights on or buying groceries when work gets scarce. But the image of Mrs. Robinson's worried face won't leave his mind. He thinks about his own grandmother, who raised him after his parents died, and how she would have been in the same situation if neighbors hadn't looked out for her. This decision would change everything, though Elijah couldn't possibly know it yet. The next morning, he walks into Miller's hardware store with determination in his step and his savings envelope in his pocket, ready to make a choice that will transform not just a roof, but the trajectory of his entire life. The next morning, Elijah loads his truck with the supplies he'd bought the night before, his stomach churning with a mixture of determination and dread. The receipt crumpled in his pocket represents nearly everything he has left: money that should have gone toward rent, toward keeping the lights on, toward surviving another month. But as he pulls into Mrs. Robinson's driveway, seeing her peek through the curtains with hopeful eyes, he knows he made the right choice. "You actually came back," Mrs. Robinson says, stepping onto her porch with a steaming cup of coffee. "I thought maybe you'd change your mind overnight." "A promise is a promise, ma'am," Elijah replies, unloading shingles from his truck bed. "Besides, that roof isn't going to fix itself." As they work together throughout the morning, Mrs. Robinson shares stories that reveal the depth of her character. She brings him lemonade and tells him about her late husband, Robert, a decorated World War II veteran who spent his post-war years volunteering at the local veterans hospital. "Robert always said that kindness creates ripples," she explains, watching Elijah carefully align the shingles. "You throw a stone in still water, and those circles just keep spreading outward." He believed every good deed eventually comes back around. Elijah pauses his hammering, wiping sweat from his forehead. Sounds like he was a wise man. The wisest I ever knew. After he passed, this community became my family. The neighbors check on me, the church brings meals during hard times. But lately... Her voice trails off as she gazes down the street. Lately, it feels like everyone's too busy surviving to really see each other anymore. Their conversation is interrupted by the slow rumble of a black sedan creeping past the house. The car's windows are tinted, and it moves deliberately, as if the occupants are studying something. Elijah notices the vehicle makes a second past 20 minutes later, causing an uncomfortable knot to form in his stomach. "Do you recognize that car?" he asks Mrs. Robinson. She squints toward the street, shaking her head. "Never seen it before. Probably just someone who took a wrong turn." But something about the way the car lingered suggests otherwise. Elijah tries to shake off the uneasy feeling, focusing instead on the task at hand. By late afternoon, the roof repair is nearly complete, and Mrs. Robinson insists on sharing more of her husband's story. "Robert wasn't just any veteran," she says, settling into her porch chair as Elijah applies the final touches. "He received the Bronze Star for valor, but that's not what made him special. After the war, he organized community service projects that transformed this whole neighborhood. Built playgrounds, organized food drives, helped families in crisis. Wait, but there's something else you need to know about Mrs. Robinson, something that will change everything we thought we knew about this simple roof repair. The mayor actually declared him a local hero in 1963, she continues, her voice filled with pride and sadness. They gave him a special recognition, said he embodied the spirit of selfless service that made America great. The ceremony was front-page news in the county paper." Elijah climbs down from the ladder, gathering his tools. He sounds like an incredible man. "You must miss him terribly. Every single day. But you know what, Elijah? Today, watching you work on this roof, putting your own needs aside to help an old lady you barely know, it reminds me so much of Robert. He would have done exactly the same thing." As they stand admiring the completed repair work, Mrs. Robinson disappears into her house and returns with a yellowed newspaper clipping. The headline reads, "Local hero Robert Robinson honored for community service." In the photograph, a younger Mrs. Robinson stands beside her uniformed husband as the mayor shakes his hand. This community has seen real heroes before, she says softly. And I believe we're seeing one again today. Elijah feels heat rise in his cheeks. Mrs. Robinson, I'm not a hero. I'm just a man who saw someone who needed help. That's exactly what Robert used to say. As evening approaches and they prepare to part ways, neither Elijah nor Mrs. Robinson notices the black sedan making one final pass. This time, however, someone inside takes several photographs before disappearing into the gathering dusk. Later that night, as Elijah lies in bed staring at his overdue bills scattered across the nightstand, he wonders if his act of kindness might have set something in motion that he doesn't fully understand. Little does he know, the ripples Mrs. Robinson mentioned are already beginning to spread in ways that will soon change everything. The weight of his empty wallet hits Elijah like a freight train as he sits at his kitchen table the next morning, staring at the eviction notice that arrived in yesterday's mail. 3 days. That's all the time he has left before losing his home. The roof repair materials had cost him his entire rent fund, and now the consequences of his kindness are closing in fast. What have I done? He whispers to himself, running his hands over his face. The morning light streaming through his cracked window seems to mock his situation. He'd helped Mrs. Robinson, yes, but at what cost? His own survival now hangs by a thread. Meanwhile, across the street, Mrs. Robinson sits in her attic, surrounded by dusty boxes and forgotten memories. She's been up here since dawn, driven by an inexplicable urge to search through her late husband's papers. Something about Elijah's selfless act has stirred something deep within her, a memory just beyond her grasp. Her weathered fingers carefully unfold yellow documents when suddenly, she stops breathing. There, tucked between military commendations and old photographs, is a letter dated 15 years ago. The letterhead reads Henderson Foundation for Community Heroes, and as she reads, her heart begins to race. Dear Mrs. Robinson, the letter begins, your husband's heroic service and your family's dedication to community welfare has not gone unnoticed. Our founder, the late Marcus Henderson, has established a special recognition for individuals who demonstrate extraordinary selflessness in helping others, particularly acts that mirror your husband's spirit of service. The letter goes on to explain that the foundation had been searching for someone worthy of their largest community grant, someone who would help others even at personal cost. Mrs. Robinson's hands tremble as she realizes the significance of what she's holding. She rushes to Elijah's house, the letter clutched to her chest. Elijah, you need to see this. He opens the door, his face drawn with worry. Mrs. Robinson, I'm sorry, but I can't really talk right now. I've got to figure out how to. Just listen to me for one moment, she interrupts, her eyes shining with excitement. This letter, it's from years ago, but I think it might change everything. As she explains the contents, Elijah's expression shifts from despair to confusion to the faintest glimmer of hope. But that hope is immediately tempered by reality. Mrs. Robinson, that letter is 15 years old. The foundation probably doesn't even exist anymore, and even if it does, why would they care about me fixing your roof? Before she can answer, the sound of music and chatter from the town square interrupts them. The annual Community Unity Festival is setting up, and with it comes Elijah's last chance at salvation. Local businesses will be hiring temporary help for the weekend, and the pay could cover at least half his rent. Go, Mrs. Robinson urges him. Go to the festival. But take this letter with you. Sometimes the universe works in mysterious ways. At the festival, Elijah moves from booth to booth, his desperation carefully hidden behind a confident smile. The competition is fierce, and younger applicants seem to have the edge. Just when he's about to land a promising position helping with the food vendors, he notices something that stops him cold. An elderly man struggling to set up his craft booth, his arthritic hands shaking as he tries to arrange his handmade wooden toys. The man's frustration is evident as festival-goers walk past his half-assembled display. Elijah glances at the vendor manager who's waiting for his answer about the job, then back at the struggling craftsman. The moral choice tears at him, he needs this job desperately, but this old man needs help just as badly. I'm sorry, Elijah tells the vendor manager, but can I get back to you in just a few minutes? Without waiting for an answer, he rushes over to the elderly craftsman. "Sir, let me help you with that." For the next hour, Elijah works tirelessly to create a beautiful display for the man's wooden toys. Other vendors stop to admire the setup, and soon customers are gravitating toward the booth. The elderly craftsman, tears in his eyes, tries to offer Elijah money, but he refuses. "Just seeing you smile is payment enough," Elijah says, meaning every word. But when he returns to the vendor manager, the job has been filled. Standing there watching the last of his opportunities slip away, Elijah feels the crushing weight of his situation settle over him like a blanket. The festival continues around him, full of life and laughter, but all he can think about is the eviction notice waiting at home. As the sun begins to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Elijah walks slowly toward his house, each step heavier than the last. What he doesn't notice is the small crowd that has gathered near Mrs. Robinson's house, or the way people keep pointing in his direction and whispering among themselves. Something is building in the shadows of this small town, something that will change his life forever. The job interviews blur together in Elijah's mind as he walks home from yet another rejection. 3 days of searching, 3 days of "we'll call you," and nothing to show for it except worn-out shoes and a growing knot in his stomach. The rent notice crumpled in his pocket feels heavier with each step. "Lord, I'm trying," he whispers to himself, stopping at the corner where Mrs. Robinson's house comes into view. The roof he'd fixed just days ago gleams under the afternoon sun, a small victory in what feels like an endless battle. Mrs. Robinson watches him from her porch, her weathered hands gripping a manila envelope. "Elijah, honey, come here for a minute." He forces a smile despite his exhaustion. "Afternoon, Mrs. Robinson. How's the roof holding up?" "Perfect as the day you finished it." She pats the chair beside her. "But I've been thinking about what you said, about your husband's legacy and all those connections he made." Elijah settles beside her, noticing the envelope trembling slightly in her hands. "You find something?" "More than something." Her voice carries a weight he's never heard before. "I spent all morning going through Harold's old papers, really digging deep this time. And I found correspondence with the Hartwell Foundation." The name means nothing to Elijah, but Mrs. Robinson's eyes shine with recognition. They're a charitable organization that Harold worked with before he passed. "They have a program, Elijah, specifically for people like you, folks who help others without expecting anything in return. Mrs. Robinson, I appreciate you thinking of me, but..." "No, listen." She opens the envelope with shaking fingers. Harold wrote them about the kind of person he hoped they'd find someday. Someone who'd fix a stranger's roof with their last dollar, someone who'd choose kindness over self-preservation. Thunder rumbles overhead, and they both glance up at the darkening sky. The irony isn't lost on either of them. "We should probably head inside," Elijah says, but Mrs. Robinson grabs his arm. "I already called them, Elijah. Told them about what you did, about who you are." The first fat raindrops begin to fall, and within minutes, the gentle patter becomes a driving downpour. They rush inside, but not before Elijah notices something that makes his heart sink, water beginning to pool in one corner of the roof. "No, no, no," he mutters, grabbing a bucket from Mrs. Robinson's kitchen. The storm intensifies, and soon it's clear that part of his repair work is failing under the assault. Mrs. Robinson finds him on her couch an hour later, head in his hands as rain continues to drip steadily into 3 buckets positioned around her living room. "I'm sorry," he says without looking up. "I thought I'd fixed it right, but..." "Elijah Thompson." Her voice carries an authority that makes him lift his head. "You get yourself together right now and listen to me." She's standing in her doorway, phone in hand, with a determination he's never seen before. "I just got off the phone with my neighbor Sarah, and she's calling the Hendersons. The Hendersons are calling the Martinez family. And by tomorrow morning, half this neighborhood is going to be here helping you fix this roof properly. Mrs. Robinson, you don't understand. I can't afford proper materials, I can't. Can't nothing." She waves her hand dismissively. "You think Harold built his reputation by doing everything alone? Community, Elijah. That's what Harold always said. One person starts something good, and if they're lucky, the whole community finishes it. The phone rings, interrupting their conversation. Mrs. Robinson answers with a crisp hello. Elijah watches her face transform as she listens, her eyes widening, then filling with tears. Yes, he's right here. Yes, I understand. Tomorrow morning? Are you certain? She hangs up and turns to Elijah with an expression he can't quite read, part shock, part joy, part disbelief. Elijah, she says slowly, I need you to be here tomorrow morning. Early. Before sunrise. Why? What's happening? But Mrs. Robinson just smiles, clutching that manila envelope to her chest like it contains the secrets of the universe. Some things, honey, you just have to see to believe. Outside, the storm rages on, but inside Mrs. Robinson's house, something electric hangs in the air, the feeling that everything is about to change. The morning sun streams through Elijah's curtains, but instead of peaceful silence, a thunderous whirring sound fills the air. He bolts upright in bed, his heart racing as the entire house seems to vibrate. Outside his window, neighbors are emerging from their homes, pointing skyward with expressions of pure bewilderment. Elijah stumbles to his front door and steps onto his porch, still in his pajamas. Above him, a sleek black helicopter circles once before beginning its descent directly onto his modest front lawn. The rotor wash sends leaves and debris swirling in every direction as Mrs. Robinson's voice cuts through the noise. Elijah! Elijah, come quickly, she calls from her porch, clutching a thick manila envelope to her chest, tears streaming down her weathered face. As the helicopter touches down, crushing his struggling grasp beneath its landing gear, Elijah can only stare in complete shock. The neighborhood has gathered now, families with children, elderly couples, everyone drawn by the spectacle. 3 impeccably dressed individuals emerge from the aircraft, 2 men in sharp business suits and a woman carrying an official-looking briefcase. The lead representative, a distinguished African-American man in his 50s, approaches Elijah with a warm smile. Mr. Elijah Thompson, he asks, extending his hand. I'm Marcus Williams from the Henderson Foundation for Community Heroes. Elijah's legs feel weak. Yes, that's me. But I think there's been some mistake. Mrs. Robinson hurries over, still clutching her envelope. Oh, there's no mistake, dear boy. No mistake at all. She turns to the representatives. This is him, the young man I wrote about. Marcus Williams nods knowingly. Mrs. Robinson contacted our foundation 3 weeks ago. She told us about a remarkable young man who spent his last dollars to repair a stranger's roof, expecting nothing in return. He gestures toward the repaired section of Mrs. Robinson's house, still visible from where they stand. You see, Elijah, the female representative continues, opening her briefcase, the Henderson Foundation was established to recognize individuals who embody the spirit of selfless community service. Mrs. Robinson's letter detailed not just your roof repair, but how you've helped neighbors with their groceries, volunteered at the community center, and even gave up a job opportunity to help a struggling vendor. Elijah's voice catches in his throat. But I was just doing what anyone would do. That's exactly why you're perfect for this recognition, Marcus replies. Mrs. Robinson also shared something else with us. He signals to Mrs. Robinson, who opens her envelope with trembling hands. After you fixed my roof, I found this in Harold's old papers, she explains, pulling out a faded document. It's a commendation from the Army, recommending Harold for a special honor, not for his battlefield heroics, but for the way he helped fellow soldiers and their families. The letter mentioned that true heroes are those who serve others without recognition. The third representative steps forward. The Henderson Foundation has been looking for someone exactly like you, Elijah. Someone who represents the best of community spirit. We're not just here to recognize your kindness, we want to empower you to do more. Marcus opens an official folder. Elijah Thompson, the Henderson Foundation is awarding you a $50,000 grant to establish your own community improvement initiative. Additionally, we're offering you a position as our regional coordinator for community outreach, with a starting salary of $65,000 per year. The words hit Elijah like a physical force. His knees buckle slightly, and Mrs. Robinson reaches out to steady him. "50,000, a job," he whispers. "There's more," the female representative adds. "We've also arranged partnerships with local contractors to provide you with training in construction management. Your natural instinct to help people repair their homes can become your profession." Tears begin flowing down Elijah's cheeks as the magnitude of the moment settles in. Just weeks ago, he was facing eviction, struggling to find work, watching his old truck break down again and again. Now, a helicopter sits on his lawn, and his entire life has transformed. "I can't. I don't know what to say," Elijah manages. Mrs. Robinson takes his hand. "Say you'll accept it, dear. Say you'll let this community investment and kindness multiply and spread to others who need it." Elijah looks around at his neighbors, still gathered in amazement. Children peer through the helicopter windows while their parents smile and nod encouragingly. He thinks about every struggle that brought him to this moment, the overdue bills, the broken truck, the decision to spend his last savings on roofing materials for a woman he barely knew. "Yes," he says firmly, his voice growing stronger. "Yes, I accept. And I promise to use this opportunity to help as many people as I can." The crowd erupts in cheers and applause. Marcus Williams shakes Elijah's hand firmly. "Welcome to the Henderson Foundation family. Your real work starts now." As the helicopter prepares for departure, Mrs. Robinson pulls Elijah aside. "You know, Harold always used to say that good deeds have a way of coming back to you when you least expect it. He would have been so proud." Elijah hugs the elderly woman tightly. "Thank you for believing in me enough to write that letter. Thank you for proving that heroes still walk among us," she replies. The helicopter lifts off, leaving Elijah standing on his lawn, surrounded by cheering neighbors, holding official documents that will change not just his life, but the lives of countless others he'll now be empowered to help. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest transformations of all. What acts of kindness have you witnessed in your own community? Share your stories in the comments below.